Hi there, my name is Phil Cunningham, one of the directors on the David animated project. And I'd like to start by thanking you for watching the Young David shorts. These shorts form part of a really big dream which started over 20 years ago, and that dream was to make an animated feature film of the highest quality on the life of David. The film is in production and is due for release in 2025. If you enjoyed these shorts and you'd like to pay it forward, that money will go into the completion of the animated feature film. And just to give you a bit more context on why David, in Acts it says, I found in David, son of Jesse, a man after my own heart. And as I was canoeing down the Zambezi River, it's a beautiful river in Africa, I was struck by the beauty of God's heart, in the thunderstorm, in a little flower along the riverbank, in the charge of a lion. And so many people view God as like an angry, austere character. But what I saw in nature, the fingerprints of the artist, was someone beautiful, a person of love, of adventure, of romance, of kindness, of music, of fun, of humor. And the idea of the David animated feature film is to give people a glimpse into God's beautiful heart.
Hi there, I'm Brent Dawes and I am the writer and director of the David shorts. So this episode is called Shepherd, and it's very simple. David is a shepherd and one of his sheep, the problem sheep, has run off in a storm and David has to go and find him and rescue him. Simple. I think my favorite moment in this episode, well, there's a couple. There's a couple of fun ones. I love how playful David is with his sheep. I love I don't want to give it away. There's this little playful thing that happens at the end, which is really cool. But I also love just the heart message of the piece and the moment where David decides to go and look after the sheep because his brother is saying, "Don't go out there; it's too dangerous." And David says,
"It's my job to look after the sheep. It's God's to look after me."
And I just think that's a wonderful philosophy, outlook, and way to live. The biggest challenge in this episode, that is an easy question to answer. And I really felt so sorry for the VFX team and the dressing team because I threw literally a storm at them. There's wind, there is rain, there is a flood, there is so much going on, and none of those things happen naturally or easily in the computer. It all has to be done. So the blowing of grass and leaves and these things, the falling of rain, the ground getting wet, the character.
It's my job to look after the sheep. It's God's to look after me.
Watch David defy his brother, conquer a lightning storm, and save his lost sheep in Angel Studios' newest series, Young David.
I'm coming, Gabor!
Watch all Young David episodes early when you join the Angel Guild.
Welcome to Sunrise. Come through, I want to take you guys on a tour of this beautiful studio that we get to work in. Sunrise is situated on a wine farm, and we were very blessed with being allowed to convert a wine storage barn into this beautiful studio. This is our reception area where a lot of business happens because it's got the fireplace. It's just such a fantastic place for people to come and relax. We've also designed it with a little bit of a story as you enter it, with our purpose statement, inspire through story. And it's not just the stories we tell, but it's the stories we as people bring. So Sunrise is more than this building. The building is an absolute treat and something we worked towards over the last 30 years. This little reception area is where I try to capture a little bit of history and for people to walk in and visually see who we are, to sort of give a bit of a story. So even this entrance area that has the fireplace, the couches, it's been designed in such a way to send across a message of this is home from home. He does that. Hey Matt!
Maybe I can show you our Foley pits if you'd like
love
to see that. Currently doing some experiments for David, trying to build an aeolophone, which is a wind machine. So we've sort of got this as a prototype. Oh wow! But just to try and sort of capture the sound of wind, and with God being a present feature in the film, we're thinking, is there a way we can subtly hint to things with Foley? The atrium. We have a separate studio here, although we're working together at the moment on the score. Yeah, over the last few weeks we've recorded with Los Angeles, New York and Israel.
I want to take you across to the art department. Hey Linton. Hey Jazzy. Hey Stephen.
I'm Stephen and I'm just busy drawing, which I love doing. So yeah, that's from my side, and it's lovely to have you guys come by and have a look.
Yeah, working on some David stuff.
That's it.
Yeah. Linton.
I'm kind of prepping some stuff for Brent to review and to work with the artists. I've got my chat window here, and all the artists message me with different things that they need looked at, and I kind of try and offer a solution as quickly as possible.
These are just little sneak previews of the beautiful artwork behind the scenes in the David movie. Jazzy's learning. She's one of our interns, and skilling herself up while you have creatives. What's also important is keeping to schedule. So Kirsty makes sure that's being done. It's a bit of a mix mash down here because we have marketing, licensing, merchandising. There's Brent, the director, hiding, sitting with his earphones on. How are you doing, Brent?
Action! Come on, people. Fine.
Action, because Brent is about to go for a run because we have a sun run twice a week with the staff. Tim as well is just keeping us all on schedule. Rach is hiding in the corner over this. She does all the social media. The part I would not enjoy, but she seems to love it and she's passionate about it. So she's the one who keeps you guys updated. Simon is our graphic artist. So Simon and I work together quite a bit on the licensing and merchandising and hoping to bring you really fantastic products. This is our social area and we love it. It was specifically designed like this to allow people to gather together while they're working, to bring a crossover from the mezzanine level down to this level. It feels really important that we build relationships outside of our department because we are all one team. And one of the fun things that we enjoy is puzzle building.
It's quite a nice break away from like when you're deep in thought about something and you just want to take a bit of a step back from your work. And it works great for team building, definitely. Like everybody else standing around you, helping out here and there, it just helps out building a closer relationship, I feel.
This is our main boardroom, the navigation room, aptly named navigation because it's where we navigate new pathways and work together to work out the map of where we're going and what the new pathways are. And it's designed in such a way so that we can open the doors and have a bigger area if we need to. I see Robin has come to visit us, and Robin's been on maternity leave, and this is her new little addition, which is our new little sunriser. Robin, are you going to introduce us to Charlie?
This is Charlie. Hello, camera.
You know, the animation industry is, people know it, is very dominated by men, but we have fantastic women, and proudly can say that up to 30% of Sunrise is now women. We designed the kitchen in such a way to be oak plan. A lot of creativity happens around the table, even in family. The best times in a family is where you all sit around the table together and you chat and you share together. So we encourage the staff to cook, to bake, to have meals together and spend time around the table. This floor was a huge surprise. When we first looked in the warehouse and we looked up, we couldn't see this floor because there were ceiling boards right up to the bottom of these pylons. But I was standing on a box of crates of wine, having a look at the whole area, and I saw a hole in the ceiling. And I asked the question of, is there something up there? They pulled the ceiling down and we realized there was this whole new space. And let me tell you, this is where the work happens. This is where the creativity is, this is where the pipeline is. So I'm going to take you on a little tour of this and introduce you to a couple of people.
Hi, I'm Ahmed, modeling supervisor at Sunrise. Take care of all asset modeling and set dressing stuff. Cool, so this is the rigging department, so they get basic skeleton structures built into them. So the animated, the layout guys can start moving the characters around and start placing props. So yeah, that's all rigging on that side. Then down over here, we've got the layout department, which is the first time we see the sets getting put together with characters. The first time we see stuff through basic camera placements as well. And then it moves from there to animation. That's where we start refining cameras, refining character poses, prop placements, etc. Then after that, we've got the look department. That's where they start texturing all the assets. So even though we see empty desks, these guys are actually remoting in from home. So yeah, we've actually got a full studio upstairs over here. Not everybody's in it at the moment, but they are working at home or from Spain, India, Brazil, you name it. We've got guys and artists all over the world.
So I'm a CG supervisor.
Yes.
So we have this art over here, and then we, as a supervisor, I talk to modeling and I say, well, what can you guys do? And then we talk to Groom and we say, what can you guys do? And we try and just make a plan together about how to make this. So then in Groom we can go and do some tests over here. So these are real. Each little thing is a real 3D strand.
My primary role is VFX supervisor, so I kind of lead on from where Kevin is, and make sure that data then flows downstream to the post department. Working quite closely on the technical side with a lot of the post teams, just to make sure that what the art director and director have envisioned carries through, and from story beats that we make magic happen.
You guys certainly make magic happen. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Lauren.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've been at Sunrise for 5 years now.
Yeah.
I'm the compositing lead for 3 of those 5 years.
Yeah.
I initially started in motion design.
Tell us a bit about yourself, Freddie.
Well, yeah, I just enjoy doing animation, doing lighting and comping. That's what I do. Yeah, and I've been doing it for a while, and that's my passion, just making pictures look pretty.
I'm the VFX lead here on Jungle Beat 2, and yeah, I just enjoy making all the smokes and the fires and the things. And we're going right down to the threads on David, so it's going to be quite detailed.
I'm Jonathan. I am technical director. So basically, I make everyone else's jobs easier to do their job. So if the artists need a tool, or they're struggling to get something done, or something's not working right in their various scenes or production pipeline steps, it's my job to go in there and to figure out how to fix it.
It's teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work, and like all of the different departments coming together. Like I doubt any one person could make the film as good as it is. But since we've got a team, it's like so much better.
We have 2 fantastic edit suites. I see Tabe's busy in there, so come let's meet Tabe. Hey Tabe. How are you doing? Good, thanks. Good.
So I get a series of storyboards and pictures and such, and obviously I have the script, and then obviously, and I would sort of work out the pacing and see,
Yes.
just work out how it would sound as naturally as it would, based off of the script, making sure that it all works and it's all just
Yes.
coherent and cohesive.
So it's putting storyboard and script together.
Storyboard and script together.
Okay.
Sometimes I'm guided by, well, this one's a unique one, because there is a song section, so I already have the song here.
This little room was sort of like an area that we have down beneath the main floor, but it's a fantastic area. It's where we get to think, where we get to plan story. It's my favorite room. It's the story room, and I see two of my favorite people are sitting here. Joe and Tim. I can see that you guys are brainstorming at the moment.
There are how many hundreds, if not thousands, paintings that was done by a team of, goodness knows, I think maybe 20 or so sort of international and local visual development artists.
We're really passionate about really digging deep and making sure our research is accurate, our story is a story that really resounds and can identify with everybody. Any good movie needs to be screened and watched, and this is our wonderful cinema, which doubles up as a screening room for a lot of work. We do our art reviews, groom reviews, model reviews, we do a lot of reviews in here. It's super important to make sure we see it up on the big screen. Gives us a much better picture of what's happening. And then on weekends, it doubles up as a fun space to enjoy movies, free popcorn. This map on the wall is with the acronym HBD, Here Be Dragons. It's to inspire people. The whole concept of, on the old maps, they used to have the acronym HBD, and the idea of it was to stop any voyagers going further. And here is our sunrise ship. This is a representation of who we are, and the idea is push boundaries, go past the HBD signs, go into uncharted waters and live courageously. In the design of the map, we've hidden lots of little clues, and this map has become quite a talking point for visitors as people come. They're drawn to it, they want to know what is the detail in it. We have our value system imprinted in the map, and the Sine Timore is the sign, again, it means no fear or without fear, and it's how we at Sunrise live. We live with no fear, taking risks, going past the dragons. There's a poem, a Sir Francis Drake poem that we love, The Service O Lord, and it's put here at the end as we're sailing out towards the unknown, and it's a fantastic poem. It's to remind us to never become complacent, to never settle, but to always challenge ourselves to go further and beyond, as David would have. David took on his Goliath, and for us, we're constantly encouraging each other to take on our Goliaths and to move forward and to take on greater things.
You're welcome. Good question, Gabor. How do we defeat them when we're outnumbered 10 to 1? Repeat after me. Kazakh, Amatz. It means be strong and courageous. Let's get you back to the others, shall we?
For any aspect of this movie, we search for the best. And I really want to say, Jonas, when I look at the songwriting you've done and the music you've done, you really are one of the world's best. I mean, if we look at David, we know he wrote half the Psalms in the Bible. So he's like you. He was a songwriter. Imagine what we can do with the life story of someone like David.
As a songwriter and, as music director for this film, I really wanted to honor Israel, because I feel like whatever culture, whatever story you're telling, you have to come back to the roots of that story. When we read the Psalms, for example, in English, we actually miss a lot of information because the Hebrew language is so much bigger. So each word has so much more meaning. And we recorded the strings in Budapest with the Budapest Philharmonic Orchestra, which was incredible. One of the best orchestras in the world in Budapest. The Psalms is the most read book in the Bible, and the Bible is the most sold book in history. So that makes David, the greatest songwriter of all time. And I think the story is so relevant for the times we're in, because right now we need stories of hope. And David, to me, is a true story of hope. This kid who was the outsider, but he had bravery and he had faith in his heart. When no one else dared to take on the giant, he said, I'll go, because I know that my God is for me. And I can't wait for you guys to hear some of these songs when they're ready to be shared, because they are fun, they have life, they have joy. It's a lot of freedom on this music and just a real sense of adventure and joy. So I feel really excited about this.
To bring the story of David into the world in such an energetic and entertaining way, but that opens people's eyes and gives them a glimpse of God's beautiful, beautiful heart. So without further ado, because I really want to give some time to Eric Koss, the CEO of Minno, I'd just like to welcome him onto the live stream so we can dive in and talk about the very exciting initiative we've got going with Eric. So Eric, I'd like to welcome you. Eric, welcome to this live stream on David. It's so good to see you again.
Thanks, Phil. It's great to be here. Thanks for having us on.
No, such a pleasure. And Eric, I was wondering, could you kick off and just tell us a little bit about how you got involved in Minno, and then probably a bigger part of that is, what is Minno? Because I think for some of the people, some of your community on this live stream, but some people may never have heard of Minno or even know what it is. So maybe you could just tell me a little bit of the audience, a little bit about who you are, and then who Minno is, and what Minno's vision is as well. I think it's quite critical because it speaks to why we connected on the David project.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background, I started my career in the Navy. I was a helicopter pilot. And had a chance to be a spokesperson at the Pentagon, went to graduate school, and then ended up working at this little company that everyone thought was going to go bankrupt in 1999 called Amazon. And when I got there were about 300 people, and I was there for 7 years and got to work on a lot of digital initiatives, which really informed my approach to what we're doing with Minno today. And so really felt called by God to use my gifts that I had developed at Amazon for his kingdom, and got involved in faith-based media. And then as the first major project I worked on was a project called Buck Denver Ask What's in the Bible with Phil Vischer, who created VeggieTales. And and as a guy who, as a lay person, also helped plant a couple of churches, one in Seattle and one in Nashville. But I was just knocked out by the fact that a lot of parents really struggle with what does it mean to help their kids connect to God. And I saw the power of what Phil was doing with what's in the Bible and how it impacted parents. And what I recognized was, as my former employer, Amazon, was growing, Christian retail was being destroyed. And one of the big challenges, and what a lot of people don't know, is children's entertainment was really, the economy around Christian children's entertainment was really built off the back of Christian retail and selling DVDs. And so when those DVDs sales go away, Christian creators don't really have an opportunity to be able to bring something to market. And what I recognized was there's a huge opportunity to solve really two big problems. One was families were saying, hey, I want to find more content that's appropriate for my family. I want safe and wholesome content, but I also want content that helps them understand who Jesus is and what does it mean to be a person of faith. But then the other is, there's really no way, if you are a Christian creative and have a great idea, to bring it to market. I mean, that's one of the reasons we're so excited about Angel Studios and excited about what Angel has been able to facilitate for Phil But one of the challenges, we wanted to build an audience at Minnow that was big enough where we could actually start investing dollars in the type of projects like David. And so the real passion for Minnow, and Minnow is a streaming service. So we've got a Minnow Kids app. It's a streaming service that's basically available on the web or Apple or Droid or Amazon or Roku. It's a subscription. But what we've done is we've curated and licensed, hundreds of shows, as well as started developing originals, to really for the purpose of serving Christian families with kids from the age of 2 to 10. And so our real passion, the name Minnow, which this is one of the reasons I was so excited about the David Project, the name Minnow is based on the Greek word for abide in John 15. And my real heart and passion is for people to experience God's goodness every day. And that's one of the things that so inspired me about David and this project is, David is really a story where we get to see someone who is living with God every day. And going through the ups and downs of faith and the challenges, dealing with evil, dealing with conflict, but also seeing how God can deliver you and what it means to be in partnership with God. And for me as an adult, I didn't come to an understanding till later in life. And my vision and passion for Minnow is what happens if we raise a generation of children who really understand who God is and what does it mean to trust Him and see His kingdom come on earth, which would be fantastic.
No, that's awesome. And just to say, for those of you listening, I've dealt with the Minnow team. They are the most amazing team on every level. I mean, Eric's the CEO, but the team around you, Eric, I've loved every one of them. They're all brilliant at what they do. They're an amazing team. And so for those of you on this live streaming call, please do check out Minnow because they are doing something very, very special. Eric, could you tell me a little bit personally, you mentioned it briefly, but I know you told me David was one of your favorite characters in the Bible. So I'd love you to touch on why. I mean, I know you touched a little bit on why now, but just expand on that a little bit. And then if you could just share, you could break the news of actually what are we doing with Minnow as a David company, like let the audience know, what we're actually doing, and then I'll dig into it a bit further with you after that. So firstly, your personal, why David is like one of your favorite characters, because I know he is, and then maybe you can actually announce what we're doing together and what the project is, and then we can dig into it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've just spent some time meditating on some verses in Ephesians 3, and they're basically talking about the fact that we can approach God with boldness and have confidence to accessing God. And that word boldness is about being candid, having freedom of speech. And when I thought about David and getting ready for the live stream, that really resonated with me because we don't have a lot of characters in the Bible where we see a lot of emotive expression with God. And with David, we really see that. And I think, again, that's what's so important for us to understand about being in relationship with God is the access that we have. And David, you see that. And you see David with confidence and courage going up against Goliath, which I think most of us would think this is foolhardy and we'd be like most of his brothers, not David. And just to see that trust and that confidence and that faith played out, and then to see that over the course of his lifetime where you see a guy who's made a lot of mistakes, you see him where he trusts God, where he doesn't trust God, but you see this redemptive story of God partnering with him. And, and what you mentioned, Bill, I think is, God himself says he is a man after God's own heart. And so I think, what I recognize is, that's what I want to be. And so I looked at David, and I've actually done a study of his life of just kind of the ups and downs and all, his leadership and relationships. And what you see is all of life really kind of reflected in him. I think that's why we are so drawn to the Psalms. Now for Minnow, when Phil and I first talked, and Phil and I got involved talking about Jungle Beat at a conference, and because we wanted to have Jungle Beat on our platform, and he said he was working on this film, and I said, well, tell me more. And we watched the demo, which we just had the opportunity to see again, and I was knocked out by it. Because, my heart and passion for Minnow and for Christian children's entertainment is that we would be able to have the same type of quality of entertainment that you see in the mainstream. But the big challenge is working out the economics, the finances. Is there an audience there? How can we make sure that we could do it efficiently, cost effectively? You know, as I talked to Phil, one of the things I so appreciated about him is this concept of stewardship. What does it mean to make good use of resources? And, you know, and I never thought we would have even the opportunity to contemplate working on a project like David this early in the life of Minnow. But as we saw it and I shared it with my board, my chairman's like, we got to do something with David. And could we do something, you know, and my chairman's idea was, hey, could we do something with young David? Could we do a show where kids could see how a man after God's own heart is raised up? Like, what are the experiences that David had that were formative that caused him to trust God the way that he did? Yeah. And, you know, my team we were like, this is a great idea. And I know when Phil and I first talked about it, it was like, I got to think about that. And then I could tell Phil's like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. I really like this. And so, you know, the other thing that is great about David, and I think it's often challenging when you're dealing with, you know, the biblical text, is, you know, David as a child, there are a lot of stories to be able to tell about who he is and how he became what he became. And so, you know, we've got some creative license there, which makes it kind of fun to be able to do some enjoyable things with the storytelling. But then also, you know, what I love about our series is you can see from these stories how David as a man writes Psalms, or how he looks back on his childhood. Like, you can see these experiences, how they formed who he was. And I think for a lot of parents, those are going to be fun conversations to like watch with your kids, to be able to talk about, hey, I see this in scripture, and, you know, how maybe that could have potentially happened in the life of David as a child. So we're super excited. The team that Phil just complimented my team. I'm so knocked out by his team. And the group of people that God's put around him. And so it's super exciting. And I think, you know, Phil and I, right now, we're doing 5-minute episodes. But what we really want to see is this take off. I mean, I think Phil and I would both like to do, you know, 2 to 3 full seasons of young David if we could. And so, so we're excited about bringing this to market. We're excited about funding it and working closely with Phil's team. It's been an awesome experience for our team to work with Sunrise, because I think we've learned a ton about what does it mean to do great content together. So, you know, we can't be more excited about being a part of this project. And really, as CEO of Minnow, when we're thinking about our platform, you know, one of the things I think a lot about is how can we get behind the best creatives and the best creative teams in the world to pursue what we think God's laid on our hearts. And we definitely feel that we have that with Sunrise. And I'm so excited about the film. I'm so excited about our series and what God can do that globally through these projects.
No, that's amazing, Eric. And I see the team, the tech team, just put up one of the models of young David. And I just think, you know, what an incredible design. Just so you know, for those of you looking at this, besides the incredible team we've got at Sunrise, we work with some incredible international contributors. So some of the character design that went into the characters were people that worked on movies like Tarzan, Frozen, Moana. So some of the world's best were involved in creating this. And this is young David, we're just showing you here. The one thing I'll say about young David quickly, Eric, is for the people, just to bring a bit of a lens onto it. So basically, this beautiful collection of 5 shorts, it might be serendipitous that it's linked to the 5 stones that David picked up. But what I want to say to them, they're essentially a prequel to the film and will be released before the film, which I think will be really cool. And it's basically, like Eric said, young David's life before, as a shepherd boy out on the hills. And we're going to get into a bit more detail on what the shorts are and the different themes of each short. But what I will say for those who are listening, the feature film itself goes from when David is a shepherd boy to when he kills Goliath, right through to when he becomes king of Judah. And the killing of Goliath, or the fight with Goliath, happens about a third of the way through the movie. But why I'm so really excited about these shorts, they're for me like beautiful jewels that are going to just be a precursor to a runway up to the actual film. And so really excited to be working with Minno. And so just to clarify, Minno are the partner on these 5 shorts. And as Eric said, we hope they might expand beyond that later, depending how we go. But what you're looking at on screen is young David. This is the character we've developed a little bit further since you saw the demo earlier. So it's the same character, but we've put a bit more work into him. And so this is where he's going to. So Eric, maybe we should move on to the actual shorts themselves and the themes of each short. I don't know if you want to mention the themes, and I'll dig into each one afterwards. I'll like kind of just briefly unpack it. So you can mention all 5 if you want, and then I'll go one by one afterwards. But do you want to give each the 5 in one go quickly what they are going to be each called?
Yeah, and it looks like we've got the images here, so I can address those. So so when Phil and our team were talking about how we wanted to approach this, we really thought, how could we come up with some concepts where, when we think about David and who he is, how could we have episodes that basically encapsulated that? So, this first episode is warrior. So what are the experiences that David had as a child that enabled him to be a great warrior for God? And so, it was exciting to kind of think about this as we went through kind of each of the I guess roles that David plays in the Bible, and how he related to God as a child and how that informed how that developed as an adult. So, Phil, do you want to talk about warrior?
So I'll quickly talk about warrior very briefly, and then we'll move to the next one. So there's 5 themes you'll hear. The first one we're talking about is warrior, and in this episode, it's in the action episode, if I can say that. And basically, in the demo, you saw this beautiful little lamb called Tali, and she's also in this episode with warrior. And there's basically a scene where there's a lion, not a fight, well, I guess it's a lion fight, but where a lion attacks his herd, and he's got to protect it. So it's done in a child-friendly way, just so you know, but it's full of energy, full of action, and it's showing David and his warrior heart, which kind of shows us God's warrior heart at the same time. So that's warrior, and then we can go into the next one, which Eric can talk about, and then I'll expand a little bit about what this one actually is. But yeah, Eric, you can speak to the theme.
Yeah, so as we talk about shepherd, which is the second theme, we're so much reminded of Psalm 23 and the shepherd's heart that we see with David, and the Lord is my shepherd. And so we're excited about this idea of what does it mean for David as a young boy to have this experience of caring and feeling a responsibility for stewarding and shepherding his flock. And so, and my family had opportunity. We actually did a table read of the scripts, and I was really excited. This is a really, really great episode.
And just to say on shepherd, just for the guys who are listening, we've been on 4 research trips to Israel. So I'll come back to that later. But there's been a lot of research gone into these shorts and into the movie. But the one thing that struck me speaking to the shepherds there, if in Israel, if a shepherd came back and a sheep had gone missing, people didn't say stupid sheep, they said bad shepherd. So the whole point of the Lord is my shepherd is the fact that, you rely on the shepherd, not on your own strength and wisdom. You rely on the strength and wisdom of the shepherd and his heart for his sheep. So in this episode, we see one of David's older brothers come involved. There's the storm coming in. This sheep is like a worthless sheep, and it's gone missing, and his brother is like, come inside, that sheep's not worth the effort anyway. And David, with his heart, like he can't just leave that shepherd, even though it's a worthless sheep, and he goes out in the storm to look for it and to save it. So it shows his shepherd's heart, and it speaks to that one other parable that Jesus told, where he says there were 99 sheep, and then one went missing, and the shepherd went looking for that one sheep. So in this, we see David's heart, and you can see this beautiful little part playing from the demo, where it's similar to the demo in a sense, where David went off to rescue this little lamb, and that's the mom sheep, just seeing David come back with after the rescue. So that's shepherd. It shows David's shepherd heart, and hopefully it also shows us and points us towards God's shepherd heart as well. So we can go into the third one, and I'll let you speak to it, and I'll say a little bit about the story.
Yeah, so we're really excited about the idea of what does it mean for us to incorporate music and to incorporate, basically the creative talent of David as he's growing up. And so we were excited about doing that in a number of different ways. And I think we've got a couple of episodes that accomplish that. But one of the episodes that I'm excited about is Poet. And so, which is really exciting as you get to see David not just as a poet, but also as a musician.
Yeah. So on this one, just for the guys, there's always fun in it, by the way, because it's just going back to our vision for the film. It's kind of a hybrid, if I can say. Well, I just want to say, Eric, there's been over $17,000 pledged during this live stream. So thank you, everyone who's just backing this project. We so appreciate it. And it's going to be a fun adventure together. So I really appreciate the support and the pledges that have been coming in. To talk to poets, the one thing I want to say, what I love about this episode, I think it's perhaps my favorite, although I'm an action person, but this one I think takes the cake for me, because this is what you'll see later when you get to watch it. This is basically the backstory to how Psalm 23 was written. There's a lot of fun going on. So I was just saying about the film, we see it as the film itself, we see as a hybrid in terms of styles between Prince of Egypt and Tangled. That little goat there, or that big goat there, his name is Gibbor, and he's always causing chaos. And David's trying to find inspiration, and Gibbor is, one of his flock that's always causing problems and chaos. So while David's trying to play his harp, this guy comes along and interrupts him, and he goes away to look for inspiration. And I won't spoil the story from there on, but basically he finds inspiration in a place you wouldn't expect. And I just want you to remember, Eric, if I forget, when we finish going through the episodes, please remind me to speak about the harp, because there's something I want to use the harp, a story about the harp in these episodes that will give people a sense of how deep we're going in terms of authenticity and research. So I'll come back to the harp, but we can move on to the next episode, which will be 4. Yeah, and Eric, you dive in and I'll chime in. Excellent.
Yeah, and again, we're kind of building on this concept of worshiper and the poetry of David. I love this episode because we get to meet David's younger sister, as a dad of 3 girls, it's really exciting to see the interaction between David and his young sister Abigail, and also the fact that it's a very human experience where Abigail, as a young child, doesn't want to go to bed, and so I really love this one because you get to see the heart of David and how even at a young age he has such a strong sense of the presence of God in his life.
Yeah, and such a cool story. She's sitting up on the roof, doesn't want to go to bed. David doesn't know she's up there. He climbs up there because he just wants to connect and look at the stars, and he loves to sing up there, and he nearly sits on her. So it's quite a comical moment. And then she's kind of like, "Why are you always fine, David?" He said, "No, I'm not always fine. But when I need help, I come out here and I work and I connect with God." And he said, and then basically he sings a song that she just it really catches her imagination and heart. And what's beautiful, Eric, what I love about this episode is his sibling connection, just his love for his little sister, and the way he kind of guides her into looking towards God when there's something you feel overwhelmed with, which is bedtime in her case. But what happens as he sings, it basically wakes up the whole village, and there's this incredible swell, and it turned into a much bigger episode than we expected, but that worship becomes magnetic and just catches the imagination of the whole village eventually. So that's Worshipper. It's going to be amazing. And then it's also one of my favorites, but we'll go there and we can jump onto the last one, which is King. So you can speak a bit to King, and then I'll dive in.
Yeah, because the two I'm like Phil, I'm an action guy, and so the two really interesting episodes for me from an action standpoint were Warrior and King, and I really liked King because it gave you. What's interesting about this, it gives you a sense as David has the opportunity to interact with adults as he has a chance to encounter one of the king shepherds. You get a sense of his fearlessness and a sense of his justice. And so you get to see this play out in human relationships where there's sort of a sense of how could you do something unjust? So there's an indignation on David's part, even as a child, which, if all of us who have had kids, we know that kids sort of have a natural sense of justice. They know when something's not fair. And I also love the fact in this episode there's kind of a tip of the hat to what's to come in David's life in the future. And we also get to see David's little sister again in this one. So I'm really excited about this episode as well.
Yeah, and the one thing I love about King, and I'll just share a little bit about the story, and I'm actually going to pause on this episode to talk about authenticity, but one thing I'll quickly say about King is, what does it mean to be a king? And I think this episode beautifully brings out what it means to be a king, and David's heart in this episode. The one thing I want to just, before I share what this episode is, give you a quick synopsis, I'll actually just take a moment to talk about the harp, because it brings in how deep the team is going in terms of authenticity. So as I was saying, and Eric knows this well, we've done 4 trips to Israel. We've gone with some of the world's leading archaeologists. There's been incredible research. This continues to this day, by the way. And today I was on a call with an incredible rabbi from Israel who's going to join us in terms of consulting into the project. But Linton, who's our art director, the one idea he came up with, which was just through research, was to make this harp that David gets, which he gets given in the episode Poet, which came a little bit earlier, basically gets handed down through the family. And Linton tracked back his heritage to his ancestor called Nashon, was around with Moses at the time of the Red Sea crossing. And he's mentioned in the Torah, which is the original text from which the Bible was drawn, but he's also in the Mishnah, which is the Jewish text, which goes alongside the Torah, which has got some of the Jewish history and tradition in it. And in that, in the Mishnah, so he's just mentioned in the Torah, but in the Mishnah, he's actually given quite a bit more bandwidth. And in the Mishnah, they say he jumped with both feet into the Red Sea, and it was at that point that the Red Sea parted. So he had quite a big role to play with Moses in the parting of the Red Sea. And this is one of David's ancestors, which is really cool, bit of information and thought. But what our idea was that this harp got passed down right through the generations. Because David was so musical, in Poet, that's where his dad gave it to David and said, look, you musical, you go play. And that's why he's holding this harp in Poet. So it's so precious and why he's struggling for inspiration, because he's trying too hard. And because of how precious this harp is. Anyway, swinging to the story King, what's beautiful about the story is he's wandering with his sheep. He hears another sheep that's in distress, and he goes to rescue it. He sees its legs caught, and he basically starts singing it to calm it down. And as he's calming it down, this shadow looms over him. And in the Bible, we know there's a character called Doeg, who was an Edomite from Esau's descendants. And he's a very harsh character. And I won't go into what he does in the Bible, but it's terrible. But he's also head of the king's, he's the king's head shepherd. And when he sees David trying to rescue the sheep, he basically insults David. And he rescues the sheep with a very hard ram of his shepherd's staff. And basically, David wants to buy the sheep because it's a worthless sheep from him. He says, I'll buy the sheep from you. And the guy says, the Doeg says, no. Well, in fact, yes. If you give me your harp, I'll release the sheep to you. So you can see it's going to cost David a lot. And that's why, Eric, I just wanted to share, going back to the deep backstory of the harp, because it shows you this was something very valuable for David to hand over. But he does in exchange for the sheep. And as he takes the sheep, Doeg just smashes the harp. So it's a beautiful story. It shows David's heart and what he did as a king. And it's also going to be one of, it's a jewel, if I can say that as well. So yeah, those are the 5 episodes which Minno are working with Sunrise on, which is warrior, shepherd, poet, king, worshipper. And what I love about those, Eric, is it just really speaks to God's heart and who God is. As he is a warrior, he is a shepherd, he's a poet, he's a musician, and he's a king. And that all came in David's young life. Before we move on, is there anything you wanted to add on that collection of shorts as a group?
No, just I'd say we're so excited to have people like Angel Studios and all the folks who are listening to be supportive, because one of the big challenges in the marketplace right now is if you have any kind of story about faith and want to tell it with integrity, there are really not a lot of places to go do that pitch. And, one of the things that I so appreciate about Phil and his team is their commitment to biblical integrity and getting the story right, getting the characters right, getting the context right. But, they're not a lot of, we're here in many ways because the marketplace is such where it's very difficult to be able to tell those types of stories and get them funded by traditional studios. And so I'm really appreciative of Angel. I'm really appreciative of Phil, and then everyone who's participating. I think you're really bringing something to life that deserves to come to life. But without you, otherwise it just won't happen. And so I think that's really important to recognize that, everyone who's participating in this is participating in a movement to bring a new type of movie and new type of properties to the market. We definitely believe the audience is there, but not everybody else does. And so we're just grateful to have your support, and it's a real privilege to be participating in this as Minnow.
And before we go to questions, Eric, the one other question I wanted to ask you is, like, are there other products, curriculum, resources, and content that you guys, well, I know they are, but I'm just asking you to talk about it, that you guys are envisaging building around Young David? So Young David will be an incredible series. It'll lead towards the feature film and awareness for the film. But do you want to talk about other ideas you guys are starting to develop around the Young David series for the community?
Yeah, so there are a number of things that we're looking at, and a part of this is because children love to enter worlds, and so it's not just the watching the series that they're going to want to participate in, but really how can they enter into this world through books, through music, through curriculum. So one of the things we want to do is make sure that churches or children's pastors have great curriculum where they can use these videos in their church and helping kids connect with God. And really looking at, we're even talking about video games. So how can we really create a fun experience where people can really enter the world of David? Because so much of this is, what does it mean for kids to have a God-infused imagination? So often the stories that our kids are getting, there is no God in the stories they're hearing, and it's difficult for them to imagine what does a life with God look like when they don't get those types of stories. And so what we really want to do is take this series and really create the products and the experiences for children to really enter into a God-infused imagination, to think about what their life could be like walking with God, experiencing that in books, toys, music, curriculum, whatever we can do to really help families experience this fully and get the most out of the story.
Yeah, I love that what you're saying about kids. They like to connect with the whole world, and the episodes and the animation is a ramp into that whole world. But I just love it. And together we're going to develop this incredible product and ecosystem around those shorts, which I think is so exciting. Yeah. Eric, I just want to check with the guys behind the scenes if there's any questions, because questions are always fantastic. So I don't know, the Angel team are busy running this. I don't know if there's any questions that they've got for us. Okay, so the question for them live: will the animals speak during the movie? So just to answer that, no. The way we're treating this is the horses. They're the horses. The animals won't speak, but they will have character. So I'll give you one example. We've got Samuel in the movie. I'm talking about, not in the shorts. And he's got a pet, which happens to be a goat, and it's a very judgmental and arrogant goat. And you can see by its expression, like how it disapproves. Because sometimes Samuel's actually, when he's talking, he's graceful and he's kind. And you can see this goat is always like self-righteous and angry, and he's annoyed. So the animals will certainly have character. And like you saw Tali on the demo that we watched earlier, she's got her own beautiful character. She's beautiful. She's always adventurous though, and getting into trouble. So yeah, the animals will have character, but they won't actually speak, and that's the way we're treating that. To answer that question, yeah. We'll just wait for the next question. Might you release any segments of the movie early to help us see it, plus as teasers? So that's a good question. What we will do nearer the movie, and that's why I think the shorts are incredible, because they're basically going to give the heart of the movie. They're going to be the same quality. They're going to be the same character. So the shorts will actually act as incredible teasers. I mean, there's very few movies which will have such a library of teasers before they get released. And they're kind of introducing the world to the character of David. So that's amazing. And then obviously as we get near releasing the movie, there will be trailers cut, which will be segments of the movie, but you don't want to give too much of the movie away. So yeah, there will be your normal trailers and that. But what I'm loving about these whole 5 David shorts we're doing with Minno, besides what they're going to do in their own right, they really are teeing up the movie beautifully and building an awareness around the character of David. Yeah. So we can go to the next question. With your focus on authenticity, this story also serves to subtly educate important historical aspects. For example, the harp, the valley with Goliath, the water from the rock. Yeah, just to say that's incredibly true and part of our heart. I've spoken about this in one of the live stream, Eric, and I know you and I have talked about this, and I won't go into the whole story because I've talked about it before, but one of the most magnetic experiences for me in Israel was going to the Valley of Eli. And a lot of Israel's been turned into a tourist destination spot, but the Valley of Eli is a fruit farm. There's no tourism around it. But just walking through the Valley of Eli, walking down and kneeling in the river where he would have picked up the stones. And I was saying one of the live streams, all the ambient noise just disappears. And as you walk out of the river, you just hear the ambient noise come up again. It's just so beautiful. And so, yeah, authenticity I think is amazing because it's really going to teach people of the world. And our main person who's like our, not policeman, but our passionate advocate is Linton. And what he's doing is really researching. Like, to give you an example, we had originally them eating chicken in one of the scenes. And then he researched, he said, no, they weren't eating chicken in David's time. It wasn't a thing then. So we actually took that out. So even going as far as diet is how, and never mind the dyes and the kind of clothing, everything we're really researching well. And I think that's also cool for you, Eric, because what they're talking about here, I'll let you just talk, you can really not exploit, but you can mine in your curriculum. Because obviously we're sharing with Eric and the Minnow team the backstory to all the research. So for you, Eric, it's great, isn't it? Because then you can take all that and actually build it out and actually bring it out as well.
Yeah, we love it because kids are just inherently curious. They love to know as much as they can. Yeah. And I know for our parents, nothing delights the parents of our Minnow kids more than their kids educating them on the Bible and helping them understand stories. So I'm excited about how many kids are going to learn all these details about these stories and sort of all the things that are going on, not just what's in the Bible, but the context and the social situation at the time of the stories.
And what's quite cool, besides the geography and the history and all that, there's also really cool things which a lot of people miss, like that Ruth was David's great-grandmother. She was probably someone who was alive when he was a little baby and praying for him and perhaps just setting him off on his journey. So there's very cool little things like that we can, weave into the materials, which, so I think what you're commenting on there in the live stream is very cool. And then we really can unpack that with partners like Minnow, which is cool. Yeah. And we'll see if there's more questions there. With the shorts, okay, I'm going to let you answer this, Eric, but I'll read it. Will the shorts be available on other streaming platforms, PureFlix, for example? And maybe you can answer your thoughts as Minnow in terms of distribution. And I know you're still framing it in your mind, but you can talk to this.
Yeah, so right now they'll definitely be available on Minnow. We're having conversations and discussions around other distribution channels and also looking at what we can do to make them available to help people get the word out or help get the word out about David and the film. So I'd say all this is sort of up for discussion and actively happening.
Yeah. And I think one thing we all align on, Eric, is obviously it's the premium thing is Minnow, but then to make it as worldwide as global as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it will be on other platforms, but that's Another question. I love the amount of research you put into this project. I see the Valley of Eli and your concept art has red flowers. This is a good question. Is that because of the location of the Goliath battle? That's an amazing thing. So one of the things we saw in the Valley of Eli is these, and I forget the actual proper name, these red poppies. And one thing we know about, it says at springtime when the kings went to war. So we know war happened during the spring, and we visited the Valley of Eli during spring, and it was incredibly beautiful, just this green, lush meadow filled with these red poppies. And all the artwork I've seen of David and Goliath, going back in history to the artists who've painted David and Goliath, is all in this very arid desert, and actually the battle would have happened in this beautiful green field with these red poppies. So the reason we're setting it, you're quite right, in that concept art, in fact, just behind me here on that side, is one of those pieces of concept art. But it's just genuinely what that field would have looked like in that time of that battle with Goliath. There's this beautiful green and then these red flowers. And that's what it actually looked like. So it's very cool and quite unexpected, but very authentic. Yeah. So we're just checking to see if there's... Okay, so it seems like that's all the questions. And I just want to give Eric a chance to just any closing comments you've got, Eric, as we wrap up this live stream, and then I'll close it off. But I'd just like to see leave it to you to conclude and just say anything you'd like to say at the end of this live stream.
Well, it's just a privilege to be a part of this and a privilege to be a part of the movement around David. And so we're excited. I know when Phil and I talked about this, the idea of getting the David episodes, young David episodes out prior to the movie to help people start having the opportunity to experience the creative and the storytelling, the animation. We're really excited about that. I know his team and my team are moving furiously and feverishly to try to get those out as soon as possible. And so, because I know I want to see them, and I'm so excited about the scripts. So, so we'll be, working diligently to try to get those out. And then, as Phil and I have discussed, we want to make those as broadly available as possible, so folks can experience what's coming with the making of the film. So it's great to be a part of this, and I'm also grateful for everyone who's bringing this into fruition, because as Phil and I talked about this even before he started working with Angel, one of the big challenges is how do you bring a big project like this into the marketplace, and it's been just a godsend to be able to have such a broad group of people get behind the film, and also for us to get behind young David at Minno. To be able to bring projects like these to market. That for me, when I started Minnow, I didn't think we'd be able to do anything like this, until 5 to 10 years out, and to be able to do it, right out of the gates as we start thinking about original content. It's just amazing, and it's awesome.
Yeah, Eric, thank you, and don't go away till the end. But I just wanted to say, from my side, Sunrise Animation Studio, working on the David project. It's an incredible privilege to be working with Minno and their team, and just the bravery, the vision, the courage you guys have had to jump in and get involved in this project is just amazing, and really fun working with Eric and his team as well. It's just like such a connected group, and I found we've also just loved them and just loved working with them, and so excited. To give you guys a sense of timeline, we'll finish production on the David shorts in sort of Q1, Q2 of 2023. And then the exact rollout we don't know, but it'll be over 2023 and 2024. And then the movie itself will come out at the beginning of 2025. So it's just going to be this really beautiful time from 2023, 2024, just really bringing these shorts into the world. And then the movie following on the heels of that in 2025. Just to give people who are listening to this a sense of how it's going to actually play out, which we're really excited about. And they're just such connected projects. Young David, and I just want to say we love the work that Minno are doing, Eric, and you guys please keep going. I know it's a long walk and it takes a lot of perseverance and a lot of courage to do what you guys are doing, but it's really needed in the world. So thank you for what you and the Minno team are doing. I think it's very bold, it's very wonderful, and we're really pleased to be working with you on these Young David shorts. So thank you. For those of you watching as well, just so you know, if you want to support the David movie, you can go to angel.com/David, and there's a lot of information there. We'll keep you posted on there as well about the David shorts. And just to say thank you, there have been some incredible pledges coming tonight. I think that it's angel.com/David is where you can go and look for information. Read correctly, I think there's, Eric, been over $18,000 pledged during this live stream, which is just so exciting.
Incredible.
So there it says $20,000 in pledging during the stream today. And what I just want to say is my wife's got an incredible proverb that says, if you want to go, it's an African proverb. It says, if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together. And for those of you pledging and joining this adventure and joining Minno, this big adventure, which actually God is at the front of, no one else, I just want to say thank you, because I really believe if we want to go far, we can go together. And that involves everybody, from someone who's pledging $10 to someone who's pledging $10,000. It's a community effort that's going to bring this beautiful project and projects to the world. So for everyone listening, thank you so much. And thank you for just listening and giving us time. Thank you for talking about the project, and thank you for pledging. And please watch the space. Check out Minno and track what they're doing. They'll be doing a lot of announcements as they get to releasing these David shorts. So thank you, everyone. And one last thing I want to say there, that's from this little thing that came up, they're saying praying. So thank you for prayers, because we know that prayers are incredibly powerful. And so for those of you out there praying for Minno, praying for the David shorts, praying for the feature film, that is super powerful. So thank you.
It's my job to look after the sheep. It's God's to look after me.
Watch David defy his brother, conquer a lightning storm, and save his lost sheep in Angel Studios' newest series, Young David.
I'm coming, Gabor!
Watch all Young David episodes early when you join the Angel Guild.